Hello, welcome to another Ball-In episode by Niche Sports. Niche Sports are proudly sponsored by Hez Boxing Equipment, a fast-growing brand that gives you 20% off all sales on the branded products to a boxing gym of your choice. I'm one of your co-hosts, David, and I'm joined again by Martin. Hi, Martin, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. You're right.
Not too bad, not too bad. And today we're joined by Ben, or better known on Twitter and Instagram as NixNation.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good, Ben, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm
Why
very
don't you
good.
why don't you start off telling our listeners a little bit about yourself, how you got into the British Basketball League, and maybe how you started the Knicks Nation page?
Yeah, of course. So I've been following Phoenix since around 2015, 2016. I just sort of I discovered them, got told about them, went along, and never looked back. Um, I've been a season ticket holder for the last two seasons. Um, obviously after lockdown and crowds were allowed back. Um, and my love for the team, for the game, um is, that's just grown with every weekend of basketball. I used to play wheelchair basketball myself, so I think that helps. The passion was there, the desire for the game. I had to give that up, so I've sort of ramped up, and as you say, I run two social media pages on Twitter and Instagram, known as NixNation Network. And that really is just me as a fan wanting to get the club out there a little bit more, and um, game updates. Obviously during the season, um, and during this off season, I've been writing about players coming in, players going out, and just uploading on there, trying to get fan interaction, um, and getting to know more about Knicks Nation really. And I love it.
Yeah, I have to say for Cheshire Phoenix, they have the not necessarily the largest, but the most in attendance for fan base. I mean, no matter where the games are, whether they're down in Plymouth or all the way up in Glasgow for the Gladiators. They are literally everywhere. They are, well, last season they were a sea of yellow, so
Yeah,
always down at the SSP. It's really embarrassing because they take up like half of the stands versus a sorry lot, and they're so much louder. So they definitely hold fans, and I think the main driver of last season was definitely Larry Austin. I mean, how do you feel about losing Larry to the Eagles?
oh, I mean, yeah, it's not a player we wanted to see go. I for one was gutted. I've got his t-shirt on tonight actually. Um, yeah, I mean, when you look at it, what he's given us over the last 2 years, coming in halfway through the trophy winning season, and really taking to the team, and then captaining the side last year, um, he's just next level. I don't think I watched a player close to him, if in my opinion. So I think that tough to see him go. Um, Definitely, he was someone that really held the team together. Um, but saying that, he deserves it, and to play in Europe as well. Um, he's going to be massive for Newcastle, and all I can do is wish him all the best, and look forward to seeing him back at EPSV against us. Unfortunately.
Well, we'll talk a little bit more later on about sort of Cheshire and what they're doing at the moment with the season. But let's last week we didn't have enough time to sort of dive into Plymouth and Surrey. So Martin, obviously as a Patriots fan and supporter, why don't you sort of kick us off and talk about some of the recent signings, who you're happy to see? I mean, there was an announcement today on there of a returning player.
Yeah, so it's kind of been a slow summer. We won't go into that. It's been a frustrating time. Um, we'll try and split the Patriots into two sections, I think, on the court and off the court. We'll leave off the court because it's a disaster, to put it lightly. On the court, though, it's quite new. We haven't really returned hardly anyone. There's rumors circulating that Coach PJ has basically got rid of, not brought back the everyone from last season, which after the disaster we had after Christmas is kind of a bold move and refreshing. Joe Hart has come back, sort of. He was here last season.
he was part of the coaching team, suffered a season-ending injury on his last workout before returning for pre-season. The club put a podcast out with him in the summer. I go listen to it. It's really refreshing. It's brutal. It's honest for a player who's in the BBL to suffer a long-term injury and what effect that can have on them, both in the game and outside of the game. So it's good to see Joe back, and I hope he does really well. And I'm sure all Pats fans are excited for that. The other guys I don't really know a lot about. I'll be completely honest. They're all new. I'm not. Some of them I'm excited to see, and then there's others I'm not overwhelmed. I'm not underwhelmed. I'm just whelmed, I think is the way to put it. It's going to be interesting.
I think for those new players, you kind of can't be, unless you've obviously heard of them, you can't be overwhelmed or under. They kind of need to prove it on the court that
Yeah, yeah,
they're sort of right for the team. I think you're right, especially, similar instance for Surrey as a Scorchers fan. They've done a similar thing where they brought back a couple of people that were maybe key players, but bringing back the whole team isn't going to bring any success because it's in last year. So you sort of have to reevaluate who's contributing the sort of picture you're looking for, and then where you need to find those guys that are maybe picking up those areas that were missed.
I think the players that have come back. Joe Hart was part of the coaching team and is part of the academy setup, so it's kind of he's part of the club. He's part of the woodwork. He's one of us. So I was pretty much certain he would be coming back. And LVC Douche has come back. Obviously, our captain. What role he'll play is obviously a bit up in the air. I think he spent most of last season injured, whether he publicly saying it or not. He looked dead on his feet for the last few games. And Will White, who I spoke about last week, that's the only three returners at the minute. Ralph, who came in after Christmas, everyone came in after Christmas, basically, his base is confirmed he's not been invited back. The strong rumours that Hawthorne James isn't coming back, which is surprising. And then even more surprising, there's strong rumours that Hassan isn't coming back either. If that's true, then that is a massive statement by PJ. Obviously, he stands with his decisions, but that is either going to make or break us. Because
see, that sounds quite surprising, because I think he was the only one that sort of kept you guys within huge defeats. Because watching him at on YouTube and the SSP, I think he was one of the stronger centers in the league in general. So that will be quite obviously there's things in the background that we don't fully get alluded to or understand, but that would be quite surprising. I mean, Ben, in terms of the Plymouth Patriots, is there anyone you're excited to see back, or someone you might want to see back for the Patriots?
I'll be honest, with names I'm not 100% familiar, but one name obviously I always keep tabs on is Dusha. I think everyone that at Phoenix will bring up Dusha as as someone to talk about. Amongst all the volunteers that I work with as well. I think obviously not just for what he does on the court, but from what I've seen, he's very much loved by the fans. I could be wrong saying that, but that's what that's what I've seen, and that's what you want in a player, in a captain. I can say a lot of that. Like Larry was like that the same. So I think having a guy like that consistent in it'd be good to see him back, but interesting as well to see the rebuild and who isn't coming back, or it'd be interesting to see how they get on this year. They are a side I enjoy having over at Cheshire, so yeah.
Fantastic. Well, let's talk about my team, who were unfortunately bottom of the league last year, but that could all change this year. Scorchers. So we talked a little bit about Josh Shield coming back. I think he's a great name for the league. It was a shame he was injured for such a period of time, but I think as he came back and got healthier, he got better and better. There's been a couple more recent signings for the Scorchers, which is quite good, and the new faces, which is what we need. Not necessarily new. You've got Jameson, who's an American re-sign from the previous year, which I didn't watch, but there seems to be a lot of good buzz on social media, and he seems to be quite loved by the fans, so that's always good to hear. And then today's announcement is Cameron Gooden, another American guard who, from the videos, looks to be an area where we sort of missed last season, which I don't know if you guys would agree, but for Scorchers, I think our big disadvantage was penetrating that defense and getting to the rim. I just constantly watch them, and there was only Paddy Wang that would drive through, and it just not many players doing that. So I think we need a bit more of that tenacity and sort of boldness just to blast through, Big Sharma and sort of players like that. Really,
You were in games towards the end of the season, and then it kind of slipped away. So do you think it's more the players you had last season weren't experienced enough to see games out, or do you think it's a case of the talent wasn't there, and this season it's kind of you want the older heads to come into, because it was a case of there was a few games I was watching, I was thinking they're going to sneak it here, even against us, it was like, you're going to sneak here, and then it just at the last moment kind of slipped away. Do you think that's going to be the difference this year, or do you think it's going to be a case of building for next season and keeping these guys around?
God, you talking about that game against the Patriots, I remember sitting there watching it and just going, that was a game to win. We were there all the way to, and I think it comes down to bodies. There was a chat with Lloyd and some of the season ticket holders, and just saying the real issue for them is keeping people healthy. I mean, they had one bloke that had two of the same injuries on both legs, healed on one leg and then the other. So I think for them, it's keeping those bodies healthy. I think it's also, it's having the right guys with experience, because they had loads of guards and point guards, and then all of them got injured at the same time. So it's having that healthy balance. And what I think is going to be interesting for them is who they're going to bring in as their centers, their bigs, because obviously Boban's gone to a French team. And last year they had sort of a different look, which was Shaquem Johnson, who traditionally is a forward, and he's quite tall, but he's a slim build. But because they haven't got the big budgets of London and Newcastle and stuff like that, they were sort of trying to think out the box of, he could get it up there. He was a great player. So I think it's building the right team. And I think, apart from obviously the top guys with the big budgets like London, I think anywhere from 10th to even 4th, I think could be anyone's game. It just depends who you've got through the season and sort of who they're coaching. I mean, Ben, do you have any sort of thoughts on the Scorchers? I don't know if you follow them, any sort of signings you're hoping for or happy with?
I mean, one name I am familiar with from last season, obviously Kyle Carey, former Phoenix player, was great to see again. Obviously not against us, but yeah. And I love Teo. I gotta say, I do love Teo. Steele is another one. I know we've already brought those up. But like I say, it's just those names you get familiar with, and really keep your eye on in a game. There's players that you're always watching and think, we've got to stop them, or they're going to cause trouble. And for Surrey, even against us, I do think we went 4-0 against them. But that didn't say that they weren't in the games with us. I think when we were quite struck with injuries, we played them towards the end, and that could have gone either way easily. And we took it, but I think this season could be different. We'll be optimistic for you. It's like you say, it's anybody's game, isn't it?
Yeah, I think I have to agree. I mean, with Kyle Carey, I don't know if you guys sort of follow all the teams, but they did a video of Josh Steele sort of hinting that he was coming back. And in the background of the video were jerseys, and one of the jerseys was number 5, which was Kyle Carey. So that's putting sort of, is there rumor of he's coming back or is he not coming back? Obviously that hasn't been announced yet, so that'll be interesting to see. But I would like to see more out of him. I have to say, probably the first half of the season he was pretty quiet. He then had that phenomenal game. I think it was against the Patriots, where in the first half he put about 30 points in, which was phenomenal. And then I just want to see more of that Kyle Carey. You saw he's got it in him, so
he has.
It'll be quite interesting. I mean, let's let's move to a team that is even more of a slow burner than Plymouth in terms of announcements. Is Manchester. I thought a big signing was coming on Monday, but they did announce a new head coach, Brian from America. He's coached, I think, NBA G League from sort of reading that. So he's been named head coach, and now it's a question of who's next. Will he be bringing in a fresh roster, or would he be bringing back some of the fan favourites from last season?
He kind of goes into it with no pressure, isn't he? He's kind of the coach with no expectations around him this season. I think, as I said previously, we're all grateful and happy that there's still a Giants, but he's basically got a blank canvas. He's got a free hit this season. Everyone's expecting him to be down near the bottom, probably with ourselves, Surrey, and the Sharks. So he's probably going to be able to do what he wants and then hit the ground running maybe next year and bring players back who he sees useful. So it's a big statement for a club that's still in administration, but I don't think they'll be down near with us for too long if that's the sort of caliber of coach they're attracting, and he will obviously bring, with a bit of money, be able to bring better players in as well. So yeah, fair play to them, good luck, but I hope they finish below us because I want some joy this season.
It's definitely heart-wrenching. I mean, let's talk a bit about, obviously, as we got Ben here, a bit about Cheshire. I mean, it looks like they're almost building a brand new roster. Obviously, they lost a couple of their guys. And there's still obviously some announcements that haven't been made. Is there any sort of rumours, Ben, that you've heard your end about people that might not be coming back, might be coming back?
I think in terms of re-signings, I think we've seen the end of the road with re-signings. I'm not entirely sure. Don't quote me on that, but I think so. Obviously we've done well to bring back. Maceo is a big name for me coming back. He's a complete different talent. Just he jaw dropping dunks and driving to the basket, 3 points. So great to see him back. David Dolph, I'm glad that he's back for a second season. Obviously he suffered a lot of injuries last year and had to wait to get his moment, but we could rely on him towards the end. Obviously, as I said before, loads of injuries lowered our players. So he stepped up. So another great signing, Jack Hudson as well. Didn't have a lot of game time last year. Came off the bench when we were in winning positions and had minutes towards the end of games, but again stepped up towards the end. And I think could have a greater role this year. So that's 3 coming back, and then we're up to 10 players now. So that's 7 new signings. Completely fresh, all from America. We have got a guy called Skylar White who from Surrey previously. So that's BBL experience. Could work well for us. He knows the league and being outplayed in other countries. And a lot of top talent. I've never heard of them, but I've done a lot of research on them. And they're exciting, prospects for the future. And will no doubt give everything to start start the ball rolling, so to speak, for us this year. As you said, building a whole new squad, and that's something I had to get used to. Not seeing players coming back, but that's the Phoenix, and I think if anyone's going to get the best out of them, it's Coach Thomas. Once he gets his way drilled into the squad, we saw it last year, shaky start, but then when we got going, and on our day we could have beaten anyone. And we had some historic finishes in the league table and in the playoffs. So I expect a lot of the same in a way this year.
Yeah,
So
for me, I don't know about Martin, but towards the end of the season and playoff era, I was most excited to watch those guys because they were absolutely down on bodies, but nothing was stopping them. It was, I was at London. I watched I think it was the semi-finals versus
Yeah,
London Lions. It was so gutting to see. I think as soon as Marcus Evans got injured there, that
that
was
was
the
it.
real kick in the teeth for them. And I'll be really sad not to see him back in the BBL. I think he was one of the best point guards. For me, I put him over Larry myself because
Yeah.
as great as Larry is, he can do the same stuff, but then he's also got that aspect of being able to shoot out
Oh, 100%.
threes and twos and
Yeah,
everything. So be really gutting. I thought he was a great point guard.
yeah.
Anyone, Martin, on your end, just sort of sad not to see come back, or
I did actually very much enjoy watching that Cheshire team last year. I did go to our game at Pavilions, and we were in it for a half, and then Cheshire kind of just put their foot down, and it was great to watch. I'm sad that there's not going to be the same vibe in Cheshire as it was last season, but unfortunately, the stature of the league is players will come and players will go. We're still very much a stepping stone, aren't we? As we've seen, even if the Flyers can't keep players, then I think that it's going to be a long way off before our three sides and the smaller clubs are able to keep a roster together. I think it's going to be one step forward, one step back. But for Cheshire, I think it's going to be even more difficult because they were so good last year, weren't they? And I know I spoke to Ben about at the end of the season, was it gutting the fact that they lost the final and then didn't do it in the playoffs really. Well, they did do in the playoffs, but they didn't go as far as expectations. Or would he say it was a successful season compared to their expectations of finishing near the bottom? Well, I think that's kind of the measure of clubs for ourselves, isn't it? But yeah, it is what it is.
I think with all these teams sort of, like you said, sort of rebuilding up their rosters, it's sort of anyone's game. I mean, another team I think me and Martin spoke about last week that seems to be building virtually a brand new roster is the Leicester Riders. I mean, the announcements they're putting through sort of overseas guys, and I think their main goal in their head is to build a roster that can actually beat a game against London Lions, because last season, as much as they were at all the finals, top of the league, they never ever beat London. It was always, they sort of didn't blow some games, they blew past them, but I think they're going to be focused on building that roster to take the top guys off the top spot and sort of regain their title. But I think they'll probably have to look out of the league at some of the other teams like Newcastle taking all those key players in the league, and then it's going to be really exciting to see. So I don't know about you guys, but I'm absolutely counting down the days.
I
Yeah.
cannot wait. I drive past our training, well, Marjons where our players train every day for work, and I look in just waiting to see someone who's massive just walking through the doors with the background is round on his back, waiting to go for preseason training. But it's close. It's not far now, is it? I think fixtures are out in the next couple of weeks, is it?
Well, if the WBBL announced their fixtures today, so hopefully, if Logic puts things together, it should be within, like you said, a couple of weeks. I don't know if the four teams going into the Euro leagues affecting that and sort of pushing it back and working out times and stuff, but hopefully it will be sort of coming through. But I think we should sort of briefly talk about what happened in the news a couple of days ago with the former Newcastle Manchester Giants player passed away, Donovan Johnson. Sort of came out of nowhere, and it's really sad to see. I thought he was a great player last season, obviously far too young to be gone, and definitely a wasted talent. So sort of wish all the best for his family, really, and sort of everyone feeling that loss.
It's sad. The league is growing, but the community within the league is quite small, isn't it? It's quite close knit, and if you're part of the game in the BBL, then you're one of us, and it's horrible for someone to die, and it's thoughts and prayers with everyone involved with those clubs and his friends and family, really, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So before we sort of sign off for this week, I wanted to ask you guys a little question just to see what you would do. So let's start, Martin. If you had a nice magic wand that you could change anything in the BBL, what would be the one thing you would change to improve the league?
Oh, improve the league. I can't just get rid of things
In your eyes. No, not so I want this player, but something that would make the league better for you, or you think better in general. just the league in general, not necessarily maybe a team.
That's going to be because I'm not a positive person. I think we've all seen this from Twitter and my outbursts on no drums.
As a Patriots fan, I understand why.
I'm just a miserable person in general. Let's be honest. Ben sees in the BBL daily group chat daily. I would. Well, I would make the spread of money more even. I would stop it being concentrated at the top. I would have that pot spread across all teams and not just centered at the top. Geographically, it's quite difficult for us to get investment, so I think that's obviously better in my club. But that's what I would do, and I think that's the way the league should have been run. But that's what I would do.
Ben, what's something you would change?
I mean, I definitely will agree with that one there. In terms of support behind the team, needing to be more even. Because like you said before, Leicester, London have dominated the top. But for me, I mean, I was talking about it the other day in terms of how do teams get into Europe. And you don't see like in the Premier League top four get Champions League. You don't see that with us. So it may be in an ideal world, top two or top three, or four even, could get a chance of group stages of Europe. Because that could be different every year. Phoenix might get a chance of groups, might not get very well, very far, but it just shakes things up. So, something like that, or yeah, in a fantasy world.
We're in a world that will never happen for all of us.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah,
idea. But
yeah,
I think for me, it's a little bit smaller, but it's just something that bugs me is with the playoff finals. I hate that first place and eighth place because you know it's going to be a blowout. That's the
yeah.
reason why they're top and they're bottom.
Mhm.
I think picking the names out of the hat because I don't know about you guys, but pretty much every final is just bored of seeing Leicester and London because London always beat them. It was just, it's a good game, but you want to see a team in the final that, I'd have loved to have seen. I think I had in the back of my mind Cheshire. I would have loved to have seen them in that final. I thought they could have really put, light bodies put on a show. And to be honest, like the Giants, someone like those two for a final, I thought would have been
Yeah,
explosive. And as good as the London Leicester team was, it's just it's very samey. So that would be the ideal for me. I think it would give
definitely.
teams a lot more chance, and because being Plymouth's fan, I'm sure. Sorry, Newcastle would have saw when they got eighth facing London Lions, they probably thought, well, that's the end of the road. So this would have given a bit more optimism. So
Yeah,
I think so yeah,
there is
that
there is
sorry,
there is an easy fix we could do, and it's an unpopular opinion and take by me, but just sack off All-Star games and bring the cup back. Just do
okay,
that, so we can have a bit of a day out and a bit of silverware and a day in the sun. There we go.
controversial, but there
We're
we
going to get
go.
flooded with tweets now. I can feel already.
We give all the controversial thoughts here. So that's pretty much everything from us. We'll be back next week talking more about some recent signings. And next week as well, what we're gonna do is we're gonna put together each of us, me, Ben, and Martin, a list of where we think the league is gonna be once all the players are announced. So once everything's been revealed, coaches, players, hopefully, which will probably be towards end of August, we'll put together our standings, and then hopefully, as this podcast goes on through the season, fingers crossed, we'll see who was the closest.
I've
Sounds
also
good.
got a weekly game as well. That will pick the three of us each week. We'll pick some games, and it'll be. I'm not going to announce the name of it, but it's going to be iconic. I think it's the way it's going to be up there with the NBA trophy and the Heisman trophy. And I think it's going to go down in history as one of the best competitions ever. Really.
Well,
Not
let's not reveal too much and keep these guys coming back next week. So that's all for me. Thank you for listening to myself, Ben, and Martin. Take care.
Okay.
Thank you.